Is there going to be a lot of strikeouts? Absolutely. Is it painful to watch? 1,000%. Should he be stealing more bases based on his sprint speed? I don't know why he can't steal more bases. It's very confusing to me. But
got to get on base.
There are a lot of things in the bucket of me leaning towards keeping Siri because I don't know what the alternative is.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
It's your boy, Evan Closky.
Back again, and we appreciate it, bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers the longest game 162 just like us,
or you remember those early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs and Carl Crawford,
we're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our sixth season covering the Rays daily.
In every season, they've gone to the playoffs, likely not in 2024. However, you can still grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on the X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Evan? It's game time.
Game time.
Yep,
That's right,
game time. Yep, he got it. He's a pro. Evan, before getting into the meat of the content here, Rays finish up a 10-game road trip, go 4-6. Recently lost 2 of 3 to the Mariners. If you could summarize or collate how the Rays performed overall, how would you define their play over the last several games or so?
The same as what we've seen since the All-Star break, right? Decent pitching, good enough pitching. The hitting just is not good enough. And game one, the fielding let them down. Jose Caballero with a really costly error, which, Ryan Pepiot shouldn't be giving up a home run right afterwards, but certainly not his fault. He should have gotten out of that inning. And rarely do the Rays make a mistake like that kills them as much as it did in game one. Game two, just lights out stuff from Jeffrey Springs, and the bullpen got the job done. And then in game three, Tyler Alexander came in there to just kind of munch some innings. And what we saw in the first half of the year with Tyler Alexander was giving up the old gopher ball. And I actually don't blame him for the Victor Robles home run. I thought that was a decent pitch. It was out of the zone high. Robles just got it. Sometimes you got to tip your cap. The other 2 homers were probably bad pitches. So overall, just a mediocre team doing mediocre things. They're a 500 squad. They're probably going to they might break Major League Baseball's record for the most times at 500 during a season. So it's just they're mediocre, right? And that's what their record is. And I don't mean a negative connotation by that. They do some things well, and they do some things horribly, and then they usually cancel themselves out.
I texted Kevin. I was like, "Is this the game against the Mariners, or is this home run derby?" When Tyler Alexander came on, because my goodness, it was long ball galore. You mentioned mediocre team. I feel like that's a perfect word for this, because I know mediocre obviously has a bad connotation, but if we look at a dictionary, it just means average. Yeah. And if you are breaking the record for being the most times at 500, guess what? You're the most mediocre team in the history of baseball. However, the offense is anything but mediocre. It is worse than that. 27th in home runs, 28th in average, 25th in strikeout rate, 21st in WRC plus with 96. I was telling Kev, is it possible that there are two ways that the front office can see this? Number one, we need a shakeup, man, because like this did not work. These combination of players is not working, and they should probably not be the combination of players that we put out there for 2025, especially knowing that we have a really good pitching staff coming in. Okay, that's scenario number one. Scenario number two, they can go, what are the odds that all of these guys are going to replicate this underperformings again? Let's run this bad boy again. I love it. I'm afraid that this fan base, like me, is thinking, oh my God, they're going to lean into number two.
There are a couple things at play here. The reason why, first off, I mean, not necessarily in the lineup for game. Funny enough, in game 2, I think they had 5 guys in a lineup that were hitting south of 200. That's the game they won. Mm-hmm. You know, there are some people on this roster who need serious consideration, whether that's, you know, Alex Jackson, Taylor Walls, Jose Siri, Johnny DeLuca. You know, you're hitching your wagon to Christopher Morel, who he's going to be here. He ain't going nowhere. You're just hoping that the man just desperately needs an offseason. But, you know, he's been next to horrendous since coming over outside of a few. He had that mini stretch during this West Coast swing, and he's hit a few homers. But he's got to be better than what he's been doing. But he's probably a right-handed version of Brandon Lau when you figure him out. The cold stretches suck. The heaters win you games. In the end, it all equals out, and you hope he's hot for the playoffs. B. Lau has not been hot for the playoffs. You hope that one day he gets to have another crack at that and prove that a larger sample size will do him well. But I think the bones of this team, it comes down to you need to hit more home runs. And they need to increase their slugging. I think slugging is arguably the most important statistic in baseball right now for hitters. I think if you were building a team and you said, give me one statistic, I mean, OPS would be a part of that. Mm-hmm. But so I would say OPS, but that involves heavily slugging. I'm just saying in general, I need people who can give me doubles, triples, homers. And usually I need people who can hit me homers. Now you're seeing kind of the bad side of things with the Mariners, a team that is all 3 outcome players. All of them walk, strike out, hit homers. And when you do that, you create redundancy. And that's what the Rays are facing right now. How much can we be redundant with trying to emphasize defense while getting nothing offensively from them? And that's why I've always said, I'm cool with Jose Siri if he was the only one. I'm cool with Taylor Walls if he was the only one.
Right.
But I'm cool with Alex Jackson if he was the only one.
Easy. Hey, Claude, let's not go nuts here. Let's go nuts here.
As a backup catcher, I would be okay with it. But
when you're taking an America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. You can get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America, because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration go together. So blast off with the iconic summer flavor of Popsicle Firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. Here's how it works with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink as well. Really cool stuff. 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. And did I also add a note here? Always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So this is the catch here. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. So good, I'll repeat it one more time for you all out there. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com.
I need tickets. Kevin needs tickets and you guys need tickets. So where should I get them? Oh, where should we get them? I know the place. It's Game Time, people. Game Time has everything that you'd want. Comedy, theater, basketball, baseball, softball. Why don't you name it? Because they have it. They have it all. And today you can get the all-in pricing, which is, you can toggle that feature up front and then there's no surprise number at the end. Isn't that nice? Maybe everybody should do that. We should live in a world where when we buy things, we know what they end up costing the first time when they're on the first screen. And Game Time does that. So today, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
The fact is, you have all three of them. And then, I've been on the record. I've said I really do think they mismanaged DeLuca. I would have loved for him to go down to AAA, work on some of this stuff, come back up. And he showed some things on his West Coast swing, certainly better in spots. But I don't know how you can feel like Johnny DeLuca is any sort of option to play significant time when you already got all these other guys who defensively minded and can hit. And right now, out of a full season, a pretty large sample size for DeLuca, he hasn't hit and he hasn't adjusted. The book's out on him and he has not adjusted at all. So I don't know how you can enter next season and say all these guys are back. I'm not here to say that all of them are gone either, because I don't necessarily know that's the right move as well. But certainly if you go all in on defense and none of them are offensively speaking, you're breaking even. At best, you're breaking even. So I don't care about the defensive side of things. In the end, you're just going to get burned the other way. And then, yes, when an error happens in a game and something blows up in front of your face, these guys aren't going to be perfect, but you're forcing them to be perfect in the field because you can't provide anything at the dish. So, they're going to have some decisions. But ultimately in this lineup, Yandy, Brandon Lau, Caminero, Morel, Josh Lowe. That's a pretty good foundation. Honestly, the lineup that they had in Game 3 wouldn't be the worst thing. I'm still not sold on Dylan Carlson long term, but I definitely am sold on him getting a shot in 2025 to see if anything comes of it. But yeah, I think that Yandy, Bilal, Caminero, Morel, Josh Lowe, Carlson, Caballero, Rortvet, Siri. That sounds like a 2025 lineup.
Yeah. Kevin, before you go, Kevin, I just wanted to make a point here with the slugging. The Rays are 28th in slugging. And if you look at that list, there's not a playoff team in sight until 19th, where the Cleveland Guardians are. Kevin?
Not good. So, Evan, you mentioned some names there that may or may not return in 2025 and beyond. Jackson, I think we hopefully know the answer to that one. Taylor Walls, Johnny DeLuca, Jose Siri. John Romano with the Times pinned an article on the Jose Siri question and what the mathematics should be and whether he will or won't be brought back. He laid out the case for why he may not be brought back. The 214 career batting average, the 687 OPS, the 35.3% strikeout rate, the fact that he's 30 years old, the fact that he's owed a big pay bump next season with arbitration, $3 to $4 million. He's making $750,000 this year. And then the antics as well. He's been benched twice this season for lack of hustle and otherwise. So where do you stand on Jose Siri? Do you see that as a guy that will be brought back in 2025, or will the Rays actively look to move him? There's good and the bad with Jose Siri. Of course, we got the amazing defensive plays. We got, a third of his home runs. They're either going to tie the game, win the game, or go ahead in a ball game. So you got that going for you. But my little conspiracy theory is they're trying to roll out Johnny DeLuca and say, hey, earn the job for us next year. But what are your thoughts on the center field matter going forward?
So at least from my vantage point, I'm kind of flip-floppy on it as well. I think they need to look elsewhere, but that's not to say that they're going to find anything worth value. So up the middle, you want to have your best defensive players, right? Considering, look, Taylor Walls and Jose Siri, I can actually stomach both of them for next season, only because Carson Williams is 2026 coming up, and you're not going to sign any shortstop long term. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So if they have like if someone wants to sign a 1-year deal worth value, I don't know who you're getting in there. You know, technically, I guess you can maybe convince maybe a trade with a Bo Bichette. I don't know, but ultimately, you need 1 year of someone at short. I don't know what their answer is in center. And it's very clear, at least defensively on the metric side and run defensive saved. Johnny DeLuca is a right fielder. He's a pretty good left fielder. He's an elite right fielder. He's a pretty good left fielder. He's not a center fielder. And the fact of the matter is, if you are going to be a center fielder who can't be great defensively, you better be there because of your bat. And DeLuca can't do that either. Now, at least with Jose Siri, he is a top 10 center fielder per defensive run saved. Some of the other guys on that list, Jarren Duran, who's probably like the gold standard right now for a center fielder in Major League Baseball. Like, just what a stud that guy is. Dalton Varsho, Jacob Young, Michael A. Taylor, Kevin Kiermaier, Pete Crow Armstrong, Danny Rafaela, Michael Ciani, Blake Perkins, right? Like those are your top 10. And then Brenton Doyle also is, never mind. He's at 6. So that's your 10. Outside of Pete Crow Armstrong and Jarren Duran, a lot of those guys have offensive deficiencies. Like Kiermaier was designated for assignment, right? Michael A. Taylor has been designated for assignment. Rafaela is great, but he's already signed long-term with Boston. And, between him and Duran, that's just a 1-2 punch. And, you got some other young guys, and, Ciani's been injured. Perkins has been all right. It just ultimately you either need to be an extraordinary bat or an extraordinary outfielder. And at this point, Siri is an extraordinary center fielder. His outs above average through the roof. And he provides you 20 home run pop, 20 to 25 homers. Is there going to be a lot of strikeouts? Absolutely. Is it painful to watch? 1,000%. Should he be stealing more bases based on his sprint speed? I don't know why he can't steal more bases. It's very confusing to me. But
got to get on base.
There are a lot of things in the bucket of me leaning towards keeping Siri because I don't know what the alternative is. And maybe you call up the Rockies and see if you can get a Brenton Doyle. It's always risky to get a Colorado player who looks good. I haven't seen his splits. I'll look that up later, but just on paper, that's always a risky thing to do. I got to see what the away splits are. And, my one call, you got to call Toronto and see Dalton Varsho because offensively speaking, he's not great either. He really struggles against the fastball, but he's actually 2 times the center fielder that Jose Siri is. And Jose Siri is a pretty darn good center fielder. So Varsho, he is Kiermaier-esque at his peak right now, like just a stud of all studs in center field, and walks a lot. He'll hit a home run. He's got that kind of pop, and there's going to be a lot of outs in between. So I don't think there's a perfect option out there. Like I understand people want to look at this in a vacuum and say, eliminate them all. But who are you replacing? Who are you going to get that's going to replace them?
I think we can do better than Alex Jackson.
No, that one's going to happen. Look, I said it before, and just again, if you move around all the other pieces and Alex was the only one left, I would say, okay, I can live with it. But I'm most confident. Oh, Siri thinks I'm talking.
Yep. Siri.
Yeah, my home up, the same thing.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm pretty confident they're going to look for another catcher. And, I said they should use the depth of the farm system to get a pretty established guy. But again, let me remind you that whatever catcher you're going to get needs to be fairly good defensively. And if not, there's got to be some offensive pop. Offensive, juggernauts of catchers are hard to come by. And I mentioned before in the show, even you get like a Shea Langoliers and you give them an enticing package for the catcher out of Oakland. He's going to provide you 20, 25 home runs, and he's going to also get you a lot of strikeouts and a low average. And there's a lot of yuckiness that comes with that as well. So there are no perfect solutions, but you look at the catcher position, not enough home runs. You look at the left field position, not enough home runs. You look at the first base and DH positions, not enough home runs. There needs to be more oomph with those positions, because on a lot of other teams, that's where they're stacking their best offensive players and saying, screw it with the defense. Just go out there and hit some bombs.
Preseason football is underway, and 50% of this podcast is mighty happy about it. Kevin, how are you getting ready for football this season?
Oh, well, I'll be sitting on my butt drinking brewskis and having the big screen TV up and running. That's my plan.
Well, I know that you're a Colts guy and you have some passion for the Bucks, being here for so long. But that household is a little bit divided, isn't it now, with some Philadelphia Eagles fan with you?
Yes, Philadelphia Eagles fan. So we have a lot of football to go around over the course of the next several months.
And in that Weiss household, there will be a lot of prize picking to be done, okay? And they can do that all day long. You can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. So today, download the PrizePicks app, use code LOCKEDONMLB, and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus, by the way. It's guaranteed. And we need more things to be guaranteed in life. PrizePicks. Run your game. We're going to say this on the Friday episode, wink, wink. But there were catchers out there, and one that we have seen a long time as a Rays fan within the division, and now he's going to be playing against the Rays this weekend, and he signed for a measly $2.18 million. When we do the postmortem for this season, which we didn't think we would even be talking about a postmortem on August 28th, the catching position, the mismanagement of it is pretty big for this season, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm on right. I think that there were a lot of L's the front office took this year. Some of it out of their control. Josh Lowe being hurt, Brandon Lau being hurt, Yandy and Randy looking like AA players for the first couple of years. First couple of months. Yandy more.
They felt like years, Evan. It
has felt like years. For the first month,
the trade deadline has felt like 10 years of Rays baseball.
Yeah. First month for Yandy, 2 months for Randy. So that stuff I don't really want to necessarily blame on the front office. Like, did you foresee Yandy and Randy slumping as hard as they did? I didn't. So, that's just stuff that like we can't live in hindsight and say, do something differently, right? That just sucks. But the catching position was something that was grossly mismanaged. You paraded Rene Pinto. You sent him down after a month. Never seen him again. Probably going to be designated for assignment in the offseason.
Will we ever get the 60 Minutes thing from Mark Topkin in 10 years with a book on like a whole chapter on like what happened with Rene Pinto? Do you think we're going to get that?
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get it. I just think that ultimately, A, defense wasn't good enough, and B, he offensively speaking, also he was not good. He wasn't good when he went down to AAA either.
But he had to be better than Alex Jackson. That's what we're trying.
He was better than Alex Jackson, and like
but the fact of the matter is, Alex Jackson, defensively speaking, again, this goes back to the whole thing. Defensively speaking, Alex Jackson is one of the better catchers based on defensive saved, some OAA framing, all this stuff, right? He is. And what you don't understand is that Rene Pinto is not good. So whatever you are gaining in the little bit of the bat, which wasn't that good because he was hitting like crud at the major league level, at the AAA level, he was not hitting well. He was hitting 200 something. So sure, you gain 90 points on average. Maybe 1 or 2 to 3 more of those are over the fence, but you're losing a lot in framing. Your great pitching that you love, it's not going to look as pretty with him behind the plate. People are going to run all over him. It's just, there's a lot
run all over Alex Jackson all the time.
I don't know why more people don't, but they don't run all over Alex Jackson. When he does have to throw, a lot of times some bad things have happened. We saw that in the second game in Seattle. But not, go look at his numbers. People aren't stealing on Alex Jackson at this crazy rate. They're not. Now, maybe they might be successful when they do it, but they aren't going on him enough. They aren't. You can go look it up. So that's just the facts of it. So I get it. I understand the frustrations, but the Rays' woes, if you think that the difference between the Rays being a good team, a mediocre team to a good team, or a good team to a great team, or a mediocre to a great, is based on their second damn catcher, we got to get over this. It's so much bigger.
It's not. And people who are saying that, you're right. They need to get over it.
I get it. They don't have a better option. The fact is they don't have a better option. And that's what it is. They got to fix it in the offseason. They screwed it up this year. And that's what it comes down to.
The difference is not Alex Jackson. You're completely right. And those people who are saying that are completely wrong. The difference between it is the Alex Jackson, the Taylor Walls, the
redundancy.
Yes, the whole
100%. It's redundant. I've said this many a times. I said this.
We can roll that back the tape. You've said it the whole season.
I said it last year. I said it the year before. Ever since I've been in the market, outside of the first year, where their offense was actually pretty darn good, and their pitching just wasn't nearly where it is today. It just they have leaned too far into defense, and the sad part is, defensively speaking, they're not even that good on the whole. They're pretty much a slightly above average team in the defensive run metric, defensive runs saved metric. They're pretty much like right above water, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but the Cleveland Guardians are through the roof. So when Andres Jimenez isn't having a great season, it's okay because he's like this world-class second baseman who's crushing it out there. It just, if you're going to go all in on defense, Cleveland's a good example. I'm not too impressed with the Guardians lineup. Very similar to last year, where I think they came out hot, were hitting well above their weight class, and they came marching right back down to earth later in the season. But they're in games because they got excellent relief pitching and they got world-class defense. And I want you to go look at the Guardians lineup. Every Rays fan who doesn't want to tell me defense matters, or why is this person in the lineup? And I keep referencing defense. You got to weigh defense with offense, because if you didn't, you cannot explain to me why Cleveland is a good team. You cannot explain to me why the Rays have been a good team in the past. Defense matters. And the problem is, though, you can't sacrifice so much offense to be so defensively minded, and then your metrics look as a team slightly above average. So,
you've told us, right, that the Rays have their own way of their database defensively. They're like, on Taylor Walls, we love him. And when you see his defensive WAR has never even scratched the surface of being mediocre. It's crazy.
I don't look at defensive WAR for fielding. Again, I think the best way to get into the mindset of what major league clubs look at, to me, in doing this, defensive runs saved is probably a better statistic than OAA, which is probably a better statistic than looking at defensive WAR. And if we go to shortstop, for example, Taylor Walls right now is 7th. But if you extend it for what a year would look like, he would probably be a top 5 guy. he doesn't get enough games because he does sit out. He probably plays 4 times a week, whatever it might be.
What? He sits out? Kevin, he never sits out, does he?
He sat out game 3 in Seattle.
Flipping walls.
I actually think he sat out twice in that series, so I forget. But yeah, so that my whole point is like Taylor Walls is, the guys right now above Taylor Walls in Major League Baseball at shortstop: Mason Wynn, Brian Rococchio, again Guardians player, excellent, can't hit, but he's double the defender that Taylor Walls is. Perdomo, Zach Neto, Ezekiel Tovar, Bobby Witt Jr. Those, at least from a defensive runs saved standpoint right now. And even, Walls has only started 50 games. Everyone I mentioned above him, it started 65 or more there. So that just kind of goes to show you Taylor Walls is an excellent shortstop. And there have been a couple of games off the top of my noggin where I can say he saved that game. Like he made that double play. He made that. There was one game in Oakland.
There was one game for sure he saved.
There was a game for the Cubs. There are there are also a handful of hot shots to go over there that people don't like to. People like to complain when errors are made. They don't really take notice when great plays are made.
Just like the shift.
And there's a lot of plays. Then we got to get into catch probability in the outfield and how certain outfielders make plays look easy. Other outfielders make easy plays look hard, and we are totally unable to judge that with the naked eye because, like Jose Siri just runs down a ball where he can get at top speeds and he catches it in stride. And we're like, oh, that's just, Jose Siri. But
that was the BJ Upton.
Get it.
That was the BJ Upton discussion the whole time. Like, is he really that good? Because he makes it look easy. He's like, no, he makes it look
really good because he makes it look easy.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, look, when the problem is, it's not like Jackson, Walls, Siri, they provide pretty significant DRS. So, but the problem is at the other positions, you're not getting significant
offensive value to overcome
you're not getting, first off, you're not getting significant defensive value, and you're not getting certainly the offensive value to compensate for the lack of defense, right? Like, I love Yandy Diaz, but there are a handful of plays he could have made this year, which I think would have changed some games at first base.
Wait, pause, because I think it's time to ask that question. But before we get to that, come on, boys. Let's have some fun.
Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock.
Closky on the clock.
All right, enough of that.
I thought Kevin, you would never ask Ulises and play that sounder. Evan, you brought up Yandy Diaz, and we've been dying to get your take on this. The Yandy Diaz, Jose Caballero dust-up from several days ago. Big deal, no deal. Something burger, nothing burger. What do you make of this situation?
I'm going to call it a nothing burger. Oh, you got to start the timer. Yeah,
there we go. All right.
I'm going to call it a nothing burger. Look, when you go to Oakland, there's actually no place for the players to hide, right? Typically, this kind of stuff happens a lot in Major League Baseball. You run down the tunnel, you chew out somebody, you come back up, you handle it in the locker room, nobody sees it. In Oakland, you can't do that. You actually have to go around to get back into the locker rooms. So everything kind of gets aired out publicly. I don't necessarily know what happened. I can speculate. I hate assuming anything. If I had to guess, based on the video we were shown, Cabby was barking at Yandy for falling asleep at the wheel during a play. And Yandy took exception to that. I know for a fact that none of this is really messed with team chemistry or anything. The professionals, this stuff happens in the heat of competition, and hopefully everyone's better because of it. Both of them were in the lineup the next day, so I don't think there's any issue with it. And people are trying to frame this narrative that Yandy's some cancer in the locker room. I just don't buy it. And yes, he had some beef with Randy. And I would agree with that.
And Wander, he would get on Wander allegedly for sure.
Yeah, well, to be fair, everybody had.
I think everybody did.
So to be fair, Yandy was probably on the right side of that beef. So considering that his manager had to come out and say he's a bad teammate, when a manager is coming out in front of the media saying he's a bad teammate, that is awful. So certainly I don't care about that because Wander rubbed everyone the wrong way. And the Randy beef was 100% legitimate, but Randy's off the team. So I just don't think that this is a thing to go beyond.
Somebody who had a tremendous road trip, at least in LA, was Junior Caminero. Everybody is just really happy that he's with the team. Number 2 prospect in baseball, all of that. Boy, he hits the ball hard. Evan, what are the chances that he gets extended during this offseason?
I don't know what the chances are, but I can give you my opinion, and I think they should do it. Every year every year that goes by, the price is going to go up. And the fear of losing a player of his ability is far greater than maybe not giving him the contract and playing it out. Because the Rays are not made of money, even with the new stadium. And I don't want people to bring up the Wander contract because that's bad process. Look, the Wander thing was an outlier. No one could predict what he was doing off the field. On the field, it was a great move. Wander Franco was an elite player on the field. That contract did not burn up because he was a bad baseball player. It burned up because allegedly, he did some things off the field. So to me, when you get these players, you see it all the time around the league. We're seeing got like Colt Keith and Jackson Trulio. Those guys are getting extended before they even play in Major League Baseball. You gotta to get the most surplus value. You have to be able to extend these guys at their earliest possible age. Eat the ARB years, get some free agent years, and keep Junior Caminero in town for 8 to 10 to 12 years. Probably lean towards it's probably like an 8-year deal, 8 to 10-year deal. Versus having that clock tick and just waiting to trade him, because you're going to cross the threshold where it's going to come right back down to it, fans. You want your players. If you want your players here long term, you got to sign them before they become big deals. You got to sign them before the money creeps closer and closer and the ARB years come up. So I hope they extend him. He's the real deal to me. He's a real deal. I personally have seen enough. And I know that stats haven't shown it 100% yet, but the exit velocity numbers, the plate discipline that I've seen, he's a huge human being. He's still so young. You hold on to these guys, and if I'm wrong on this take, then I'll be the first one to admit, wow, what a mistake of a move. But I will rip the Rays to shreds if they have to trade a guy like Junior Caminero and he's bopping 40 home runs in their new ballpark. So I think that they have to do this, and it would be foolish to not do it.
What's also the real deal is Mr. Evan Closky. Evan, how can people find your amazing, wonderful work?
At eClosky WTSP on the X, formerly known as Twitter. Also want to give a little plug to The Blitz, our Bucks preview show. It's starting up this weekend, Sundays, 8:30 on 10 Tampa Bay. But you can watch the show on 10 Tampa Bay Plus, wherever you watch your streaming devices, or whatever your favorite streaming device is. 10 Tampa Bay Plus is on it. And then you can also go to our 10 Tampa Bay YouTube page where it will air as well. If you go through 10 Tampa Bay Plus and the YouTube page, it will be on Saturdays. So we'll be up there a day early. So that's the incentive to go to those spots. But football season is starting, and we are about to shift our focus. I mean, I'm still going to watch all the Rays games, but we are going to go knee deep into the Buccaneers.
Can you give people a brief synopsis of what the Blitz is? What can they expect when they go watch it?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much going to get you prepared for every game that weekend. Now, we got the preseason primer coming up. So if you know nothing about the Buccaneers, this is the episode you want to watch, because we're going to get, like you, Ulises. We're going to kind of break everything down of what happened in the offseason, where they're at now, and what to prepare for moving forward into the season. Then when we get to next week, we'll talk about the Commanders matchup. And then the following week, we'll talk about the Lions matchup. We have fun interviews. David and I, we do fun segments. It's kind of, you get 10 to 15 minutes of pure Buccaneers talk. We break down film, and it's very loosey-goosey. It's long form. We let it rip. We show our personalities, and we have fun doing it. So, I'm pretty confident that if you love football, you love the Buccaneers, you're going to love this show because national outlets do not give the Buccaneers, just like the Rays, they don't give them enough love. So we do.
Good to hear. All right. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And we will talk to you on Friday.